Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where it has been quite a while since the last time I got a video out to you guys. I want to take a quick second and just kind of explain myself, because that's very not like me. I have in the past, let's see, 3 weeks now? Yeah, I think 3 weeks. I have been all over the country for work, of course, but I have bought a house, moved, and went on vacation. So I've had so much stuff going on, and the end of the year was coming up. I just took a little time off to be with my fiance, get moved into our new house where I have I have my own office now, so I can bring you guys a little better lighting. Look at the nice, no glare, all sorts of good things going on. But I've been so busy. I've even been off Instagram for the most part. Been on it just a little, but I've got some messages I'm going to get to there at some point today. But more than anything, I'm glad to be back. I hope everyone's doing well. And let's take a look at what we have today, and that being the Kizer Swayback by Swags. Before I go any further into this video, of course, I want to thank you guys for putting up with my absence and also tuning in today. If you like what you see, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content on more of a regular basis than every 3 weeks. Now, let's get into the overall specs of this knife here. We have an overall length of 7 inches, a blade length coming in at 3 inches, with a cutting edge at 2.75 inches, a blade thickness coming in at 0.11, with blade material being Bowler N690, with a very nice worn style blade, with a flat grind, stonewash finish, 4-inch handle length, some pretty nice G10, your typical G10, but I do really like the texturing on this guy. Not too gritty, not too fine, just enough to feel it. You got stainless steel frame and liners with a right hand, left hand tip up only carry. A weight coming in at 2.72 ounces, and if you haven't already known, you're about to know. You actually already know because I told you in the beginning of the video, but this is designed by the one and only Swags. She is a female personality in the knife world. She puts out great content. Give her a follow on Instagram. This is her second knife design, and I have got to say I'm a fan of both of them. And we'll talk more about this one here right now after some size comparisons. Let's take a look at some size comparisons here. Start off with the CJRB Mini Feldspar. So this is the Mini, having the 3-inch blade, and we have the Civivi Elementum. As you can see there, both pretty spot on in overall lengths. Very different design overall. Completely different aesthetics, but tip to butt, it is pretty comparable. And let's take a look at a couple more groups. We got the QSP Pelican, as well as the Giant Mouse Ace Iona, which is one of my personal favorites. If it had a stronger detent, it would be even better. But there you go. There again, it's really easy to find lengths, comparison and lengths for this knife, but it's not very easy to find knives with similar feel on hand. This is a very kind of a unique beast here, so I don't really have anything to compare the Ergos to, but I got one more group here with a couple of my all-time favorites. The CJRB Rhea, the new one I got from Knife Center with some wood scales that I really love. This is a permanent part in my collection. Huge fan of this knife. And of course, the Kizer Dukes. And there you go. As you can see again, I think you guys have a really good idea for just the overall length of this. What is going to take a little more out of me is to explain the feel of this knife in hand, because it is unique. Not in a bad way, not in the best way, but overall, it's not too shabby. But first, let's start with the blade, because this knife is packing a very, very slicey Wharncliffe blade. I did not get around to measuring that. My calipers are in a box somewhere in the house, and when we brought everything into the house, we failed. We got it all in the house, but the boxes didn't all make it into the right room. So someday I'll find those and I will get a measurement, but it's super slicey. Goes through paper like a breeze, has a very nice tip that, as you know, any type of Wharncliffe blade is always going to be excellent option for, your daily EDC tasks like opening up boxes or letters or anything that would take a nice draw cut like that. It's going to perform very well. And you also have a really nice swedge design. Of all the, I'm kind of a sucker for a good swedge on a blade. I think it really helps with the overall aesthetics, and of course it helps with performance a little too when you're fully cutting through something. But more than anything, that swedge is to take weight off of the blade. They definitely did that, and this is all the same color. The light was just hitting it a certain way, but I just really like the way this swedge looks. It reminds me of like almost like a eagle talon or some type of bird claw. Really sweet. Looks good, performs good, and the jimping does nothing but help that. Has very good jimping on the spine as well as on the flipper tab right here, which you may or may not use that. I'll explain that in a little bit here. But no, all in all, a very nice blade. That there are a couple little issues I have with it. First of all, Kizer needs to calm down on their logo. I mean, that's just a big logo for a smaller blade. I mean, if you're talking like the Kizer Justice or a bigger knife, this size of a logo would be okay. But the smaller the blade gets, they really do need to keep it proportional with the blade. And they do the same thing on the Feist. The Feist has just way too big of a Kizer sign on it. It's downright annoying. It's even worse than this one. So that does bother me. I wish they would just downsize that a little. But I do like the way Swags put her name on the clip. I don't think I'd want to see that on every knife, but it's a nice change up. I like it. And, when you see Swags like this, with a heart and everything, I just kind of get the feeling people may not think knife. I mean, a knife person would, obviously, but my dad or the, grandma or grandpa, old person, you run them into Walmart, whatever, people aren't going to be able to probably relate this to a knife in your pocket. So I kind of like that. And it's still a pretty neat maker's mark. Would look just as good on the blade, but it's different to have it on the clip, so no real issue there. Didn't mean to get away from the blade, but I kind of did. You got Swayback up there, which is okay. Kind of a boring font, but I actually really like where they put it. It's nice and small font, so it's not, it's not that. So I do like that. And most importantly, the thumb studs and flipper work great. Thumb studs are in a great spot. And overall, the jimping is just very effective. Now, the tip is a bit dainty, as you can see. I love the lighting in this house, guys. Look how it's so much easier for me to focus. This is great. But yeah, definitely somewhat of a dainty tip, but it's going to work great for any type of slicing jobs you might have. You're just not going to, obviously, you don't want to use this thing like you would a Hinderer or a ZT or, some thicker, beefier knife. You just, use it to the ability that it's capable of, because you don't want to break that tip off. That would ruin just about any knife, but it would really ruin this knife, because it'd be hard to resharpen it to get it to look like that didn't happen. So be careful when you're working that tip. Who said that? Let's move on. Let's just move on. But again, I really do like the use of N690. Not the strongest steel in the world, but takes a great edge, holds a pretty nice edge, and I think just a pretty good EDC steel with boasting the corrosion resistance that it does. Now, we also have this. I don't know if this is an issue yet, because in all honesty, I haven't carried it enough to get a bunch of crud in there, but the plunge hole for the lock is right here. As you can see, the way this works, it's a button lock. You push the button, it closes, and let's see if we can get it in here. I don't think you'll be able to see it. Yeah, you can't really see it. Well, you kind of can. So right in there, you see there's a button that it goes, as you pull it out, and you'll see it pop up. There. So that right there is what fills this plunge hole, and that's what locks the knife. It locks it open and closed. And I notice when this is open, it's exposed. So I'm wondering, if you get a bunch of lint or crud in your pocket and it gets in there, I wonder if that's going to effect the the functionality of the mechanism, if it's going to hinder it or hurt it, or maybe it won't make a difference. I have a feeling it's going to do something, but I could very well be wrong. Just worth noting. I don't really like that, but again, $59, how, there's only, I guess you can only so much you can complain. Kizer took on a lot here to try and make a quality button lock knife at a $59 price point. That's not easy to do. And yeah, I'll let you know what I think about that, my overall thoughts, but they attempted it, and there's not many things to pick apart in this knife. That might be one of them. I wish that was covered up. And lastly, I noticed I don't really know how to put it, from like right here up to the tip, I feel like there's just the ever so slightest recurve. You guys see it? Just a very, very slight recurve. I don't think it was on purpose. I'm assuming that may have been a flaw in grinding the blade. I don't know though. I didn't see anything on it, but regardless, if you can see it or if you can't, I kind of see it. So let's see. Yeah, it kind of goes away. But yeah, I feel like there's just a ever so slight recurve up there. Again, it's a Warncliffe, so it's not going to affect you in sharpening it or anything. I just kind of noticed it, and I wonder if anyone else has a swayback. Let me know. Have you noticed that on your knife? Or is this maybe part of the design? I think it's just a little bit of I think they just grounded a hair extra off up here on the blade, would be my guess, but I don't know. But I thought it was worth pointing out, see if anyone else has experienced that on their model of it. But all in all, very solid blade, very slicey, and good to go for EDC use. Now moving on to the handle and ergos. And the ergos are where I'm going to have to really try to explain this guy, because it feels good. I don't have anything bad to say about it. My issue is not so much with the ergos, because I do think the ergos are good. I wouldn't call them great, but they're definitely good. This fits back in the backside of your palm very well. And what they did up here was very interesting. So this is obviously not a liner lock. The only time you usually see one side of the handle contoured a little back farther is so you can access a liner lock. And I can't tell you how many times I went to try and access this liner lock that's not there because it just looks like it's there. The reason they did that was more for ergonomics. And I have to agree with them. I think they made a very good choice in doing that, because if this came out farther, it wouldn't feel that good on my index finger. Taking that material off makes it very easy to wrap my index finger around and get a real solid purchase on this knife with no hot spot up here. I think that was the key, and they really did accomplish that. There's no hot spot. It feels good in hand. And it also directs your index finger away from the button. So the odds of you closing this knife while you're using it, I would say, unless you got some really, really wide fingers, slim to none. I would favor on the side of none, because I've never even come close to doing that. So it does. At first I was a little stumped by it, but I do get it. It works, and it works great. So I think they did a really good job of thinking a little outside of the box, so to say, when it comes to designing this, because I don't think their first instinct was to make this disproportional to this side. But it makes a lot of sense why they did that. I guess my bigger issue is just the overall aesthetics of the handle don't exactly scream to me. There's a lot of other handles on knives that I think are more attractive as far as looks. Again, I know that shouldn't necessarily make or break the ultimate decision of you purchasing this knife, but it definitely factors into it. There's just no getting around it. If you think a knife looks like crap, you're not going to buy it. So I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it looks like crap. I think it looks decent, but it's just not my favorite. Not my favorite. So again, that's a personal preference though, but this is my personal channel, and just giving you guys my opinion. So tell me what you think. Do you think it looks okay? Do you think I think the blade looks fantastic, but when you get down to the handle, it just kind of looks, I don't know, it just looks a little off to me. Not necessarily something I'm really going to hold against it though, because there are a lot of other good things going for it, like the thickness of this handle. I really am a fan of this thickness. I've said before, my ideal spot is right around 0.5 inches, and I think this was what, where'd it go? Oh, you know what? The handle thickness is not listed on this one, but I'm willing to guess this is right around 0.45 to 0.5, because that's really just what it feels like. I've held a lot of knives in hand, and it feels a lot like that. So I'll measure it, and I'll post something on Instagram or something maybe later if you guys really want to know. But it feels very good in hand. And let's see, what else here? The colors. So the colors, I like this red. I will say they nailed this red pretty well. It's kind of like a fire engine red, you could say. It's not like a candy apple red or anything. So it's a nice shade of red, but I really wish they would have had like a black and brown option. They only have purple and red, and I get that. You know, it was Swag's choice, and I like the red, but I think a brown or black would still be good, and it might appeal more to other manly men. But regardless, that again, I think that would just been a better option they could have offered, and maybe they will down the road if these continue to sell well. But that's it. As far as the Ergos, the Ergos are pretty good. They're pretty good, and I don't have any real complaints. The pocket clip is not a hot spot by any means. Don't really mind that it is not a deep carry clip because it still carries pretty deep. You can only see about that much knife in the pocket, so not too bad at all there. And just overall, a pretty comfortable design in hand. Now, onto the action, where it gets... I think that's where this knife does excel, because like I said before, Kizer... They took a risk making a button lock for $59 and having to match the performance of another knife that has come out recently that is a button lock. Not match it, but just be in the atmosphere. But the action is good. It's really good. I wouldn't call it great, but I would call it very good. The flipper, I would recommend. I think it's a lot better to just push it out as opposed to light switch it. If you light switch it, it still works, but you kind of have to grasp it. The detent on this guy is pretty firm. I think it should be. I like the detent, but when I go to flip it out, I can kind of do it like that, but I feel a little better when I kind of pinch it in my palm down here and flip it like that. It works better, but at the same time, overall, I really just like to push it. I think that gives it the best action. It feels the best in hand, and it's, I don't know. I usually do prefer a push on flippers. I think you guys kind of know that by now. I know I've mentioned it in other videos. And the thumb studs. Thumb stud works good. This thumb stud. Or if you're a lefty, this thumb stud would work good. But since the detent is so firm on this, there's no middle finger flicking this guy. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and it to the point to where it hurts, and I can do it, but I wouldn't do that in public because I would be worried about dropping the knife because you have to push so hard. Now, maybe this will break in even more. I will say the action on this knife was extremely stiff out of the box. Extremely stiff. Stiff to the point to where I got it and I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to disassemble this and clean it before I can review it. But I tell you what, I flipped it a little, kind of messed around with the button lock, and within, I'd say a day, 2 days, it was broken very, very well. I was really happy with that because at that point, I didn't have the time to take a knife apart. I was that freaking busy. I just had this thing in my pocket. If it would have taken any extra care, I probably still wouldn't have had the review out to you guys by now. But all in all, the action's really good. The button lock works fantastic. You have a really nice lockup on the back, as you can see there. The only thing that you have to be aware of is when you're pushing this, when you're closing the knife, you have to really push the button down the whole way, because if you don't, it's pretty precise and you got to go deep and then it goes. But if you let off the button at all, it stops. And you can shake it, but it's really hard to get it closed at that point. So you got to keep the button pressed down the whole way, and then it closes pretty easily, very easily. So no real issue with that whatsoever. But yeah, very, 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 very good action for a budget button knife. Very good. Now, this is where the problem will lie. And I made this mistake when I bought this knife. I was thinking ProTech Malibu, and you can't do that with this knife. You cannot compare it or have any expectations for it to be similar to the ProTech Malibu, because that is a $200 knife. It is made in America. It has just overall much better quality in general than this knife. Not that this has bad quality, but it's ProTech. If you guys know, you know. ProTech is one of the best knife-making companies in the world. I know they make mostly automatics, but for what they do, they're some of the best to do it. So you can't really compare this knife to that. Now, if you compare this knife to other Kizers, it's fantastic. And Kizer makes great knives, but a $59 knife is going to be really hard-pressed to compare it to a $200 knife, especially when you're talking a button lock, because the action is, in my opinion, much better on the ProTech Malibu, but it really should be. If it wasn't, I might be a little upset, because I'd be like, hey, wait a minute, $59 knife is better than my $200 Made in America knife. So, again, you're opening up a whole other can of worms to discuss, but I think overall, if you keep an open mind, if you want to try a button lock at an affordable price, I think this is a fantastic option, because it is overall a very nice blade, a great EDC blade, with good ergos. If you don't mind the aesthetics, if you like the way it looks, I would definitely say go for it. My overall thoughts are pretty positive on it. This one took a little warming up to, but I really do like it. Don't love it, but I do like it. It's a unique design with a quality blade and good build. So it's really hard to knock that. You can run into a lot of personal preferences, and if you have some, I don't blame you, because I do too. But if you find it attractive, I definitely recommend it. It's a very nice knife. And now, as you saw in the title of this video, this is no longer going to be my knife. This knife right here is going to one of you amazing guys or gals for subscribing and watching my videos, supporting me. I told you guys a while back, when I hit 2,500 subscribers, I'd do another giveaway, and life kind of took over, got a little overwhelming, and I'm at like 2,700 and some. So thank you all so much for subscribing to me. If you're not subscribed, please do so. But this knife is going to one of you guys. You don't have to do anything other than comment this. Good job, Swags. Make sure you put good job, Swags in your comment. I'll record the drawing, I'll post it, and whoever comments good job, Swags, and good job, Swags, way to go, Swags, anything involving complimenting Swags on this design, because she's doing big things, she's doing really cool things, and she deserves our support. So comment a line of support to Swags in the comments, and you will have a chance to win this knife. I will do the drawing in a week from now. So you will have a week to do that, and that week will be, crap, when is a week from now? I got my other phone here. Let me check. So January 6th. January 6th, I will do the drawing for this knife. Compliment Swags in the comments and get yourself entered to win this knife. And just again, guys, thank you for your support. I have grown so much more in this year with this channel than I ever thought I would. And I've just really I've surprised myself, and I couldn't be happier with where this channel's going. So thank you, guys. I will continue to bring you more consistent content moving forward here now. And I also have a couple videos to kind of outline what I plan on doing in 2021. You'll see that video coming up probably after the New Year's, but it's coming. Thank you guys for watching today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.